This is Hannibal here from the HannibalTV.com for my weekly review of the points I find interesting in Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer newsletter. Why I put the picture of Jacques Rougeau and I up as the cover photo to this is because I interviewed him about his new Wrestling Academy project earlier this week, where wrestlers can apply at jacquesrougeau.ca, is because he announced yesterday that the Nightmare Factory, which is owned by Cody Rhodes and QT Marshall, where AEW wrestlers are trained, is going to be involved with the project. So good to see for him. He was one of my trainers, and I wish him luck with this project. With this show, which it's going to start recording next spring. So nice to see AEW's involved because they're doing pretty well these days. Their Grand Slam edition of Dynamite a couple of days ago was the second largest non-WWE gate for pro wrestling in U.S. history. Of course, you have to take into account inflation on that. But Meltzer also mentions it's the largest attended non-WWE pro wrestling event in the U.S. in 22 years. Didn't do a huge rating. It did a 0.48 rating, but it did draw 20,177 fans with 18,300 paid and a $960,000 gate. The largest attendance for a non-WWE show in the U.S. since the July 5th, 1999 Georgia Dome Nitro, which drew 25,338 fans. And it was the largest crowd for a pro wrestling TV show in the U.S. since the February 5th, 2001 Raw event at the Georgia Dome, which drew 24,639 fans. So, like AEW or hate them, yes, it helps that they're owned by a billionaire. They can throw a lot of money at the product, unlike somebody starting with a lot less money or starting from scratch. But they've drawn some good houses, and the crowd was hot from the clips I saw for that show. Dave Meltzer talks a lot in this about how much he loved the Kenny Omega versus Daniel Bryan match. I don't like small wrestlers, and I don't like leg slapping in wrestling. So that wasn't really my style of match, but I'm not denying that the fans in attendance loved it. It's just not my taste of the match. Meltzer brings up that in the days of superstar Billy Graham, Pedro Morales, and Bruno Sammartino, Madison Square Garden sellouts were 22,092. Now, of course, WWE will call a MSG sellout far less than that these days. I think they had 13 or 14,000 there for SmackDown last week. AEW announced that there's going to be a collaboration with the Owen Hart Foundation to do an annual Owen Hart Cup, where the winner is going to receive a cup called the Owen. And WWE apparently blocked them from calling the cup the King of Hearts. They are also going to work together on Owen Hart merchandise, and he's going to be a playable character in the AEW video game. Apparently, Warner Media announced that Rampage is going to be staying on TNT in 2022, but Dynamite is going to be moving to TBS starting on January 5th. So it will air Wednesdays at 8 p.m. on TBS next year rather than TNT. Apparently, Jake Roberts is having health issues, and he did some appearances recently in a wheelchair with oxygen on his nose, but he took the oxygen out when he was posing for photos. WWE recently had a successful UK tour, and they announced they're coming back to the UK in November. As I just mentioned, Dynamite did a 0.48 rating this week. NXT did a 0.2 rating, and apparently they're already having problems filling the Performance Center, which holds 250 people. They boosted that up for 180, and they were having problems filling it for 180, even with free tickets for their new look. They set it up for 250, but this week they could only get 230 people to come to the free tapings, and it's only the second week of the new look. So that's not a good sign. Raw did a 0.49 rating this week. SmackDown last week did a 0.58 rating. Rampage last week did a 0.28 rating. Dark Side of the Ring did a 0.07 rating, which was its lowest rating yet. And Impact did a 0.02 rating. Apparently, according to Wrestling News World, there's an investigation involving workplace sexual harassment going on right now in regards to a top management official within Impact Wrestling who is under internal investigation stemming from a large amount of claims, including sexual harassment within the workplace. In attendance, WWE in Knoxville, September 17th, did 6,100 fans with 5,000 paid. WWE in Charleston, South Carolina, for Raw did 557 fans. For their UK tour, they were in Newcastle, September 19th, did 7,723 fans. They were in Augusta, Georgia. Their other crew did 3,297 fans. In London, September 20th, they did 13,650 fans. In Cardiff, Wales, WWE did 4,731 fans. In Glasgow, they did 7,279 fans. The September 19th Battleground Championship Wrestling event in Philadelphia that I wish I could have made it to, but I couldn't. It did a sellout with 900 fans at the ECW Arena. And Meltzer brings up that Ring of Honor did a pay-per-view at the same arena about a week ago and only had 350 fans. And now Ring of Honor's gone back to taping in front of no fans because I guess they're having real problems getting fans to come out to watch their product, which admittedly sucks. Jerry Lawler did a show in Robbinsville, Mississippi, September 18th, before 800 fans, which was a sellout with Jerry Lawler against Scott Steiner in the main event. In something we've discussed a lot over the past week, I'll bring up Meltzer's notes about it. The Dark Side of the Ring, lowest viewed ever, had actually the most repercussions, with Ric Flair and Tommy Dreamer being punished the most out of it, even though the allegations of what happened on this flight are 20 years ago, and there was no civil or criminal charges pursued. Meltzer brings up, it should be noted that at the time of the flight, The three key allegations in the lawsuit were against Flair, Hall, and Runnels. And the allegations of the lawsuit regarding Flair, Hall, and Dustin Runnels, which all had to do with actually grabbing the flight attendants, from what I understand, inappropriately, were the least incidents talked about at the time. People were all talking about the fight between Brock Lesnar and Kurt Hennig and the haircut of Michael Hayes punching Bradshaw, all that kind of craziness, but not about those incidents. Meltzer also says that it appears that Hall and Dustin Runnels have not been canceled. He says they've been anything but canceled. Hall is still doing signings. Runnels is still working for AEW. And he says, as far as he can tell, there's no pressure on AEW regarding him. It is interesting to note, though, that there were multiple flight attendants on the plane, and the flight attendant that was making her accusations against Dustin Runnels did not appear in the documentary. Only one of the flight attendants appeared in the documentary, and it is one with a history of criminal charges. I mean, she was charged with things like being a jewel thief, and identity theft. She was the only one that appeared in the show. So they only talked about Dustin being brokenhearted and drunkenly singing to Terry Reynolds on the plane, and they left out the part that he also, according to reports, according to the court documents, groped another flight attendant. Meltzer also brings up that Vince McMahon and Linda McMahon were apparently not on the flight, despite some people saying in the documentary that they were. He brings up that in the report that he did in 2002, when he talked to people about the flight, it was made very clear that neither Vince nor Linda were on that specific flight. And the people that talked with them about the flight at the time said one of the reasons it got so far out of control was because Vince and Linda were not actually on the flight. He also brings up that Jonathan Coachman said Vince and Linda were not on the flight, absolutely not, to quote him. And he says that the women who filed the suits were both lying. That's why the suits never went through. Now, one of the other reasons why the lawsuits could have been settled is there was issues on both parts as far as over-serving wrestlers alcohol. You overserve, I don't know how many wrestlers were on the flight. Let's just take a guess and say 40. And allegedly they were served 3 full carts of alcohol. You can imagine people are going to go crazy drinking that much alcohol. And a lot of times why issues are settled is neither side wants all the details to be brought out in court because it's going to make both sides look bad. There's no doubt that AEW was very biased. Not AEW, sorry, Dark Side of the Ring was very biased in their documentary and had certain people they wanted to go after, such as Flair. For example, leaving Dustin Runnels, who was also accused of groping a flight attendant. They didn't pursue him on that. But Flair, it seemed they really tried their best to make him look bad. And of course, Tommy Dreamer has been suspended from Impact and his podcasting job. I forget the name of his podcast, but he's been suspended from that. Tickets for the New Japan Pro Wrestling events in Texas are not doing well. New Japan is not that popular these days. You could probably say they're at an all-time low in popularity. Eldridge Wayne Coleman, 78 years old, better known as superstar Billy Graham, was hospitalized earlier this week due to heart issues. Meltzer brings up Graham was one of the top drawing heels of pro wrestling during the 70s, behind only the Sheik, and held the WWF Championship in 77 and 78, winning it from Bruno Sammartino and losing it to Bob Backlund. His title reign was the longest of any pure heel in the first 48 years of the WWE. His interviews were copied by some of the biggest stars of the era, including Jesse Ventura, Hulk Hogan, Austin Idol, Dusty Rhodes, Diamond Dallas Page, Ric Flair, Gino Hernandez, and countless others. His record of 95% MSG sellouts with him in the main event, which is 19 out of 20, is the highest in the history of Madison Square Garden. Now, it is my understanding through his Facebook page and some communication with his webmaster, who talks daily with his wife, Valerie, that Graham is back home now. So he does have a GoFundMe page if you search Billy Graham, and it's also listed on his Facebook page, Billy Graham. Anyone that feels like helping him out with his medical bills, I'm sure he would greatly appreciate it. WWE has not treated him very well over the years. And as I'll mention it again, since I mention it every time, they should do a Madison Square Garden tribute to him before it's too late. You will have a legitimate sellout for that. Not much MMA news this week other than Devin Larratt, my friend from here in Ottawa, Canada, lost to Thor the Mountain in a boxing fight in the Middle East. I think it was about a week ago now. Devin took the fight on like 5 weeks' notice with no boxing experience. He was replacing somebody else, and the Mountain had been training for a long time. The fight was stopped in the first round. I would love to know how much each of them were paid for that fight. If anyone knows, please message me at greatnorthwrestling@gmail.com. It's being kept very secretive. Jacob F. likes the Mountie. Jason L. says good morning. How's it going? It's going all right. I actually have to attend a funeral tomorrow, so you won't see as many posts this weekend because I got to drive. I'm going to go work out after this, but then I got to drive 7.5, 8 hours. Good morning, Gerardo. Bill, yeah, tickets for the world-class pro wrestling event in Wichita, Kansas next weekend at the Cotillion. Ringside are already sold out. I would highly suggest people get their tickets for that. Matt Hardy is going to be there. Fuego del Sol, Rodney Mack, the Sandman taking on the Blood Hunter with the Texas title on the line. Speaking of which, Carlito will also be facing the Blood Hunter if he still has the Texas title by then. December the 11th at Southern Junction in Irving, Texas, which is pretty much Dallas, Texas, as far as I'm concerned. Someone says Superstars with Gorilla and Bobby the Brain was the best. Mike, I think Buzz Sawyer is in the legacy wing of the Hall of Fame, whatever the hell that is. I don't know. But I got stuff to do. I hope everyone has a great day. Have a good day. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV.